I'm sure we both have seen so many people that have built businesses that have like done well and yet totally burnt them out. And like, I think human design is one example of like, how can you build a thing that like not only does well, but also feels really good? And that kind of applies to every part of our lives. Like, how can you parent in a way that feels sustainable? How can you show up in relationships where you can like honor those needs that you have? I think it just helps us know like, how can we really honor our authenticity wherever we are and whatever we're doing.
Erin, welcome back to the Earn Your Happy podcast. I'm so excited to have you on.
I'm so happy to be here. It's been a while.
It has been a while. It was back in my house in Santa Monica, so it's been a hot second.
Wow, I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I'm thrilled because, you know, you are the human design queen. And my first experience with human design was with you. Like first it was the internet, but then it was really with you getting to deep dive. And we had a group of like family and friends kind of do a session with you together, which was so much fun getting to learn about everybody. And it really, I think that really was the beginning of even just this conversation within people in my close circle and family to understand each other more. And so that was so much fun. And now you have a new book out called How Do You Choose? What a great title for what you do, like really diving into choosing with your unique design. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to have Erin explain this in just a minute. But I know whenever anyone has written a book, I like to just chat on that for a hot second, because the journey of getting called so clearly to a book is because you really do have a message that you're willing to, you know, fight for and like stand on that hill and like shout to everyone, because Erin and I were just chatting before this, you guys, like when you decide to write a book that is a challenge, like you're not an author before you're an author, and you have to become this person that you've never been before. You have to get so insanely disciplined and dialed in and clear. And then you have to turn into the marketer for a year. So it's like you're an author for a year to 2 years, and then you're a marketer for a year, and then you never stop marketing your book. So I want to know, what are some things that were unexpected that you learned about yourself on this journey?
Wow. Well, I would say one lesson for me, and I don't know what it was like when you wrote your book, but like I kind of had this vision that I could like write the book and like run my business, and I would be like just great at managing it all. But the book was like a far more immersive process than I imagined. It felt like over the past 18 months, like 90% of my energy has gone to the book. I just didn't feel like I could actually distribute it in all the ways that I wanted to. So I'm so excited for it to be out. And I'm also really like looking forward to diving back into my business in a new way. So I don't think I really anticipated that. I think I also, to your point, like I felt like I was so ready to be done with the writing, because I was like, I can't wait to share. But boy, has the marketing been exhausting. It's been amazing. And now that I'm kind of nearing the end of it, I'm like, I really look forward to the day, which is today, which is now, that like the book is out in the world and can like take on a life of its own, you know, where like I will keep marketing and sharing it, but it also feels like now it's like in the hands of people, and they can like give it to the people they love, and it can just like move from there. So like, I'm really looking forward to that journey. But I will also say the last piece that has been surprising is that, you know, I've been teaching the system now for 10 years, which is crazy. And I feel like I was surprised by how much the book has helped me. You know, I think that I have ended up reading and rereading, as you know, 1,000 times. And like every time I read a new chapter, I'd be like, oh my God, like I see why this friendship is feeling hard in my life, or I see why I'm having this miscommunication with my husband, or I see why my daughter is like struggling in this way. I felt like returning to the information over and over again just brought me clarity over and over again. And like, I so want the book to be that for everyone. And it was really such a wild experience to actually experience that myself, even though I wrote the freaking chapters.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy that just the editing process and the going back through, that is discipline within itself. I remember having to be like, oh my God, you just pick it back up, read it again, put fresh eyes on. Like, wow, it is like now when I hold books, I have such a new respect for that and what it takes to get out in the world. So I love that you did this. And let me just tell you, if you thought you knew what you taught before, you know it even more now.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Oh my God. Let's dive in because we use human design. I feel like in everything we do, I use it in all my conversations with my girlfriends. So let's just start there for anyone who's new to the conversation, what it is.
So, human design is a mystical assessment. It's based on your time, date, and place of birth, and it reveals how you are uniquely wired to operate in every part of your life, from friendship to relationships to career to parenting to business. It really gives us permission and the tools to really do things in a way that feels authentic and aligned for us. I think so often we see what others are doing and think that it might work for us. And sometimes it does, but often it doesn't.
Yeah.
And human design reminds us like, this is how you're wired to make decisions. This is like how you're wired to like engage socially or have meetings or show up in friendship or any of the things. And the last piece that I would say is that I find human design to be equal parts mystical and practical. It's obviously mystical in that it comes from our birth information, but I also find it is so insanely practical. It doesn't just give us all this juicy information that makes us feel very seen. It gives us all these very tangible, practical tools that we can integrate into our everyday. And that really was my focus with this book.
Do you find that you use it for a lot of business people? Like, who's been your main clientele?
Well, now it's been so many people. I would say that when I first started, it was focused almost exclusively on business, but now it's like, we have like 45,000 people that have their guides. So it's hard to narrow it down, but I would say that it tends to be like anyone that is kind of at a crossroads where they're just like, I need help with this thing, whether it's a romantic relationship or a parenting challenge or a business challenge, and they're looking for insight. But I would say that it's broadened. Like, I think that the interest in like the team interest and the CEO and executives, like that audience has grown in a really big way, because I think that there's just like an increased openness to any system that will help them do things better. And I think human design has such an impact on business and teams because it really helps them understand each other, that I've seen interest there grow in a pretty dramatic way.
Okay, so you've seen this integrated into a lot of teams, like mainstream?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think that like, I would say like I've given talks at a lot of like mainstream companies to teams within, I think that like it is an interesting thing to integrate. Like even though some people will like integrate human design and hiring and things like that, that's not often what I do. It's more around once you've kind of like built a team, sitting with them and helping them understand how they work best, because you can just be so precise. You can be like, hey, instead of coming to Lori with like a super open-ended question, like it might be useful to present options, like some people might love like a lot of collaborative meetings and brainstorming, whereas others like might like really minimal meetings. Some people might kind of need to be invited in to share. Some people might have more energy than others. So like, I feel like there's often so much misunderstanding in teams and also in romantic relationships when we expect someone to be like us and we're really disappointed that they're different. And I think human design just gives us a language to be like, they're wired differently, and these are all the ways that we can support them. So I find in team dynamics that's so insanely helpful because it helps you know how to kind of like really leverage somebody's unique gifts.
Oh God, for sure. There's so much that I remember learning about, specifically my brother-in-law that we work with, because the two of us are so different that it actually helped me understand and get along with them even better. We get along great in life, but in work, because we're so opposite, it can feel like we're pushing up against, each other's differing opinions. And I feel like we've been able to work so much better since me understanding how he looks at things is not critical. It's because he really wants to make sure everything is going to work out great. So
yeah. It brings so much compassion. I even tell a story in the book of like a couple that was trying to decide whether or not to move to New York City. And one of them was like instantly knew, like she had instant clarity, which her design was like, she's meant to be fast. And she was like, God, my husband's so slow. He's waffling. He's so indecisive. And when we looked at his way of making decisions, he was meant to give himself a full month before he reached his truth. So what she was perceiving as like indecisiveness was very much his process of finding his way to what he wanted to do. And so I think that like, it's just one example of so many that we can like interpret these differences as like them being wrong or us being wrong, when it's just that we're different.
Oh my God. Okay. So we're going to dive into the design. Then we're going to talk about my design, and you guys will kind of see how this all works in the world and how it's helped me with decision making. And this is great because I haven't dove in a while, like really since you. So I'm really excited because I feel like I've needed an update, and we'll see how I've made decisions in my life.
Totally. And whether it's aligned with your design.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll see in front of everyone. Okay. So let's talk about the different designs and what they are.
Okay, so in human design, at the highest level, there are 5 different types. This is a really important piece, and it's just the first piece. Those types are manifesting generators, reflectors, projectors, and manifestors.
Mm.
You can look yours up at humandesignblueprint.com. If you don't know your precise time of birth, I would use the closest approximate you know. I will begin with you, our generator. So generators in human design have boundless energy when they feel genuinely satisfied and excited by what they're doing. When they're lit up by what they're doing, they have this capacity to kind of go, go, go and really bring ideas to life in such a powerful way. Obviously, you have demonstrated that with your life. I think generators can sometimes struggle with boundaries because they have such natural capacity. People can like pile a lot of things onto them. They might feel they should do everything. And so really kind of getting clear on what they feel genuinely available for. Also, what tends to bring generators the most satisfaction is like fully expending your energy. Often an ideal day is one where you kind of wake up energized, kind of use up your energy throughout the day, whether it's working on your business, your podcast, exercise, being with your partner, and then you kind of drop into bed delightfully spent. You're like, I left it all on the field.
For sure.
Do you feel that?
Oh my God, that's 100% me.
Yeah.
If I don't use it all, I can feel a little like, wired still.
Totally. And like sometimes generators have to like do a workout late at night or like go on a walk or do something. I think often when I'm trying to sense where a generator's at in their life, I'll often kind of check in about how they feel at night. Because that often is really reflective of their alignment in general. And then I would say lastly, as a generator, you are somebody who's very naturally magnetic. You are not really meant to chase after opportunities or kind of come up with ideas out of thin air. You're meant to kind of see what shows up in your world and kind of naturally sparks you.
Mm-hmm. I feel that.
Okay, so then we've got manifesting generators. Manifesting generators also have all this boundless energy when they're genuinely excited, but they tend to be quite multi-passionate. These are my clients that are like, I'm a coach, I'm also like a lawyer on the side, also like starting a dance company, like considering opening a juice company. They're just like, they do so many things. And so often they've been made to feel scattered or like they're doing too much when they actually need that level of variety and freshness. They're also super fast. Once they have clarity and idea is right, they're often the fastest one to make it happen. So they can often be disappointed in others' inefficiency when it's really not about somebody else being incompetent, but just, somebody else having different gifts. And they too are kind of meant to let things come to them and kind of see what sparks their gut response.
Just my husband, I believe. I think
I was trying to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, like so multi-passionate in such a beautiful way, but I think often they have been made to feel scattered, like they're doing too much, and that's their gift, being like so multi-hyphenate in that way. There are also projectors. Projectors are very natural leaders, guides, teachers, advisors, coaches, really good at kind of asking the right questions, really good at stewarding other people's energy. They're so naturally wise about other people and very sensitive to others. Their energy can really ebb and flow. So a big lesson for us as projectors, I'm saying us because I am one, is really allowing space and rest and pause into our days and really disentangling our worth from how hard we work and how much we do. We don't have the same thing as you where it's like we've got to use it all up to like feel rest well. Like it's good to kind of build and rest throughout the day. And then as projectors, we're really here to be invited in. So really considering where in our lives we feel the most kind of invited in and recognized for our gifts beyond how much we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got manifestors. These are kind of the people that are here to disrupt, innovate, trailblaze. They really are so good at getting new ideas started. Their gift is not doing all the doing to keep the idea alive, but really getting it rolling, getting the ball rolling. These are people that crave freedom to do what they want, when they want, how they want. They are not really here to be managed or guided or told what to do. And their energy is very bursty. They can be like on fire for a couple of weeks and then kind of have a couple of weeks where they kind of pull back and rest. So really building a life in an ideal world where they can really honor those cycles. And they're here to make the first move, whether it comes to dating or business. When an urge arises within them, they're really meant to follow it. And then the final type is a reflector. This is the rarest type. These people are incredibly sensitive to their environment, always kind of taking in and amplifying the energy that they're around. So really being quite ruthless about where they spend time and who they spend time with is really essential. And these are people that are very fluid, like different seasons of life, different people, different environments pull out different parts of them. So their job is not to try to be just one thing, but honor whatever feels like them that day, knowing it's all them. And they're incredibly wise, very kind of objective in their perspective and how they see things. So they thrive in positions where that perspective is kind of what they are really valued for, and their perspective is really invited in.
When you tell people these, do most people say, yeah, that sounds like me, but do they get confused because they also feel like other parts? Are you wrong? Are you for sure? Just because sometimes I'm like, am I a manifesting generator? Or do most people say, yeah, that's me, a fit?
Well, I would say that it depends. Like, I think there's so much nuance underneath our type. I just did a session for somebody last week in LA and she didn't know her birth time. But like when I met her, I had a very clear sense of what I thought she might be.
Okay.
And she listened to all five and she was like 100% manifester. And which was what I thought. And it was so fun to see. But like, I guess what I would say for you is like, you are a generator. You have all this kind of like steady energy, this powerful commitment, but you also do have an aspect of your design. This is beyond you being a manifesting generator, that you have like a very fluid identity. So you also are meant to express your purpose in a bajillion different ways. So like, I would imagine you kind of would resonate with that multi-passionate piece. And I would just say the difference for you as a generator is that it might not look like, doing a bajillion things every day, but like, one day you really focus on this and then the next day you really focus on this because there's such a level of depth in your design. So it's not about not doing many things, but being a little bit more strategic around like giving yourself the space to really go in.
Oh yeah, that is what I've been learning. The reason that's cool to hear, and you guys will understand as you're starting to see like how helpful it is to even hear this, is the thing that I have done this year and really started at the end of last year is to really take specific days to dive in, or I feel so incomplete that I actually get frustrated and my head hits the pillow and I get very upset with myself to the point where I'm like angry. And then it creates like just a, total incoherence in my entire life. So I love hearing that. And it just, what human design is over and over, which you'll continue to hear. And if you work with Erin and you go see your designer when you read this book, it's such confirmation of things you already knew, instead of being like, oh, I'm a weirdo, or, oh, I'm extra. I need this time to create, blah, blah. I need more time, whatever. Yeah, you may need more time. And I think the more that we lean into it, the more magic comes, like the more you get to see what you're capable of doing. And also you just feel so much better. There's not so much disruption and like lack of feeling a connection even with yourself and with your creator, whatever you believe. I feel like that's what you can really lean into, and that's why everybody should read this book. Okay, let's continue.
Well, I love that you said that, because I do think, I just want to kind of reinforce that I feel like the people that are most skeptical tend to really fall in love with human design for that reason, because it feels like what I articulate to them is not this foreign concept. It's like they know it. They're like, oh God, I feel this. I've felt it my entire life, but nobody's put it into words.
Yeah.
So it does kind of do that for people where they're like, I know this and I haven't really allowed it, and now I have permission to allow it.
For sure. Yeah. Permission to just lean in and keep creating what you need for yourself to feel better. Because if anything else, I think that we, in our lives, if we weren't putting human design language to it, there's already a language of this that you're speaking that you don't even realize. And it's just like, I want to feel better. I want to feel more me. I want to feel more expressed. And I think human design allows you to lean into how you're going to feel better, feel more aligned, and feel more expressed.
That's exactly right. And like, again, I'm sure we both have seen so many people that have built businesses that have like done well and yet totally burnt them out. And like, I think human design is one example of like, how can you build a thing that like not only does well, but also feels really good? And that kind of applies to every part of our lives. Like, how can you parent in a way that feels sustainable? Like, how can you show up in relationships where you can like honor those needs that you have? So I think it just helps us know, like, how can we really honor our authenticity wherever we are and whatever we're doing?
Totally.
Okay.
So should we dive into what my human design says about my work?
Yeah, I love that. So, okay. So you as a generator, I think that we've talked about this piece already, but I would just say that like, I would think about like, what are the parts of your work? And obviously I know you do many things that like feel the most satisfying. Like, what are the things that you like on the other side of doing them? You're like, God, that feels so good to have done. And like, I would make sure to kind of carve out space to do that thing every day. Because like I said, like when you are really lit up, your energy is boundless. You lift up your team. You're so magnetic. But when you're doing a lot of things that like you don't enjoy, which is pretty inevitable in the early stages of building a thing, it's like, how can you make sure you kind of carve out some of that other space and kind of are able to do that, because it will give you more energy to do everything else. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh. I mean, it makes total sense right now. Because in the beginning, you are in so many things you don't necessarily want to be in. So what would you say to somebody who, what would you say to me who literally still has to be in so many things right now? Because we're working on it. But I am pushing so hard right now through a lot of really tough stuff and looking for the days where I'm like, oh my God, when do I get to be creative? When do I get to be creative?
Yeah. So something I talk about in the book is kind of the need to be like primarily satisfied. I feel like there's a lot of generator talk out there. Like you've got to be lit up by everything you do, which is just like often not feasible. So it's like, I would say for you, when you're in a moment of like, this is hard and I'm building something and this is not easy. Like again, how can you carve out, like, I would say like an hour or whatever it is, like in the morning. I feel like you honestly already do this, but like carve out some space for yourself where you're like, I'm going to do a thing I enjoy just because, or like, I'm going to like stack the tasks that really feel like will feel the best I've done at the top of the day so that like, it will help me power through all the things that I don't enjoy. And like, when it is possible to kind of delegate and hand those things off, giving yourself full permission to do that. And also, I would say another thing for you is like, you are somebody that responds well to specificity, to specific questions. So like an example of that would be like, do you want to do this thing or this one? Do you want to like, is the timing right for this? And so like, I would say if there's also any uncertainty around where you're putting your energy or how you're approaching it, I would have somebody ask you really specific questions around the issues you're facing to make sure you really have the energy for what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
For decision making in business, does design help with that? Like, what does that look like? What do you tell people if they're having, trouble making decisions?
So everybody has a different way of choosing. I would say in your design, you are what we call an emotional authority. So if you look up your chart again at humandesignblueprint.com, you'll see your type. We talked about that. You'll also see your authority. And so for example, for Lori, your authority is around the fact that as gut and instinctual as you are in your choices, you are meant to really give yourself a beat before you say yes. So I would actually recommend for you, like pay attention to your first instinct and then check back in a day or two later and see if that instinct is still strong. You're also somebody who's got like a very powerful, very active mind. So I can imagine it's really easy to logic your way into or out of basically any choice.
Anything.
It's like, it is for sure a gift of yours. And, I would say really kind of returning to your gut in terms of, again, like as much as I can see why I should or should not do this thing, like what is the visceral feeling underneath it? Do you feel like a lot of your business decisions are driven by gut, or do you feel like do you get a little bit lost in what you think you should do?
I can get lost because I can pitch myself that it could be good in so many ways. So I can get a little lost. Gut does feel like it plays a big role. I can get lost in the decisions that I've already decided to put on the good side. Does that make sense? I'm pretty clear right away if it's not for me, but there's so many things that do still feel that it could be right, that those are the ones I get lost in.
Yeah. And I think like when you feel like you are lost in that way, I would honestly have somebody close to you, like say your husband, just be like, do you want to do this? Like, is the timing right? And be like, what is the visceral response that comes before my mind even has a chance to get in the way? I have a thing I want to share about the business, but I'm curious, like, is there any kind of decision that you are looking to make right now that you don't yet have clarity around?
Not really, honestly, in this particular moment. I think I feel really clear. I think I feel clear. For a while there, I was like, how big do I want to go with my company? And that felt unclear, but I feel very clear now what I want to do. Like,
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would,
that took a while.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, in those moments when you are having a hard time choosing, that's like a really good time to have somebody ask you those questions. Like, I can't tell you how often I sit with people and they like kind of talk around a potential option for like 20 minutes. And then they're like, do you want to do it? They're like, no. So like the answer is actually incredibly clear. They just haven't been asked in a way that actually drops them into their knowing. And I would watch out for you and your voice to hear the moments where you're like, I think that I should do this because it might lead to this thing or this thing might happen, which is very disconnected from the gut, versus the moments when you're like, I'm doing this thing just because it feels right. I don't quite know why or how it will look, but like, it just feels so deeply correct. So, and this is Lori's way of choosing. Other people are meant to kind of talk things out. Some people can trust their immediate instinct, but I think that we are making decisions all day, every day. So obviously knowing how to make them in a way that feels really true to us makes the biggest difference.
Oh, you know what? There is one. I'll see if I'll leave this in, Erin, but like, honestly, I feel like I could go back and forth from hour to hour on if we should have kids or not. Like, because we tried in my late 30s quite a bit, like rounds of IVF. And, at the time I was super excited. Now I'm 44 and I'm like, I can tell myself why I want them, but it is so unclear. It's actually, I've never not been able to make a decision. And this is the only one.
Wow. Okay. Can we try?
Yeah, let's try it.
Okay. So my encouragement is just do your best to just like shake it out and just see like what is the immediate response? Like, is it a pull towards or is it kind of push away? So if I'm to ask, do you feel like you want to have kids?
My future feels like I want them, but my present says that sounds like a hassle and very challenging.
So I think that like one thing to really kind of disentangle here is like, to me, it felt like the no was coming from like all the things you might envision that come along with it
Yeah.
versus just like, does this thing feel right?
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
and then if I was to ask another question, which is like, does the timing feel right to do it?
Mm. The answer is the timing will never feel right because I will always be this busy.
That is definitely true of kids, but I think, so it sounds like the answer is not entirely clear, but like, I do think what I hear there again is like the no is a little bit more based in like all the ideas,
Yeah.
whereas it feels like the yes is actually more of like, and again, it sounds like it's not always a full bodied yes yet, but it does feel like it's a little bit more of like, I do want this. It just sounds complicated because
Totally. If I was to summarize it, that's what I would say. Like, I know I will feel deep regret if I don't do it. But then, the personal development part of in the way that my brain thinks, and I'm sure the way, you've talked to so many people, and especially according to what my design is, I can pitch myself that I'll still be more than okay and I'll find a lot of other purpose. But I also, there's just a part of me that's like, but what is life? you know? So that's interesting.
well, also a question that I usually encourage generators to ask themselves, and it's usually not relevant to kids, but I do think it's relevant here is like what would feel satisfying to have done? And I usually pitch that on like a day-to-day basis, like, to kind of
Yeah.
begin your day being like, what are the 3 things I could do that would like feel satisfying to have done? Some of those things might be really fun. Some of those things might suck, but like they leave you feeling like, oh God, that felt gratifying. I think it extends to kids too. It's like, yeah, it might be super hard, really complicated, but like, do you think it'd feel satisfying to have done it? Like, I feel like what I'm hearing from you is like, the answer might be potentially yes to that, and that's
Yeah.
a thing to consider.
That's a great question just for anybody who is making decisions right now too. Hopefully that helps them
Yeah.
because hearing satisfying is so different than even fulfilled. Fulfilled is a really great word as well. But like, you try to picture this is such a big question for so many people. And it's
Yeah.
becoming a more normalized question because so many more women are not having children.
Yeah.
More people are not having children. And it's like at the end of my life, will my businesses have felt satisfying enough for me? And I think that answer is no. Like, I think it will be that a family will be like that deep satisfaction of like, oh, I actually came here for this too, So that's good. That was helpful.
Yeah, no, I think that your reflections are really beautiful around that. And I think, it extends, it speaks to the fact that in human design, we all have signals that reveal whether we're on or off track or just signals of alignment or signals that like a thing needs to change. And so for you, that signal of alignment, this is true for manifesting generators too, is satisfaction. It is like the way that I'm expending my energy feels rewarding, and when things are off track, which is inevitable and will arise for all of us, for you, it's frustration. There's like a little bit of a dissatisfaction or resentment in the way that you're using your energy, and frustration is of course going to have like arise in all the moments. But when it's showing up very persistently, whether it's with a team member or an aspect of your business or your husband, it basically is an invitation to step back and be like, how can I engage with this thing differently?
This is actually frustration is I think one of the keywords I remembered from the first time we worked together. And I thought that was how everybody felt. Like that was their main like emotion for when things weren't going right, but it's not. But for me, it truly is like and I remember explaining it to you as like a toddler having an inner temper tantrum, like just trying to be like, this is not how I want this to be going. This is not how I wanted to spend my day. This is not how I wanted to express. This is not what I want to be working on. I don't feel satisfied. I don't feel good about myself. It can actually make me feel like really mad at myself,
Totally, because like as a generator, like you're gifted. It's like very powerful, precious energy to make things happen. And when it feels like that is not being used properly or like in the right way, it can just be like, ugh, it could like feel so bad.
Yeah.
So again, like satisfaction is just that reminder of like I'm using my energy in a way that feels really good, that feels really rewarding. To give you an example of another one, for me, when something is out of alignment, it shows up as bitterness.
Oh,
Very different.
see, I don't even relate to that.
I know, isn't that wild?
It's
Like
so cool.
it is so cool because it feels very simple and yet so distinct. I think bitterness is often the sense of like, I don't feel recognized. I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel invited in to share. I feel like I'm putting all this stuff in and nothing's happening. For me to be on track and aligned is to feel successful.
Mm.
And like, of course, financial success is one manifestation of that, but far more than that, it's that feeling of like, I feel so seen and recognized and appreciated for who I am and what I bring to the table, whether it's in my marriage or my friendship or my job. And so for me, when like I start to feel bitter, is that kind of like nudge or that whisper that like something needs to change here.
What's another one?
So I'll give you the other one. So for manifestors, to be off track is anger. And that kind of is like a more disempowered feeling. It's like I don't have the freedom to do what I want, when I want, how I want. I feel controlled. And for them to be on track, which I love, is peace. And that really is that inherent freedom of like I can do what I want. I can like initiate new ideas when I want. I can like, go on trips, or I can take time to myself like without guilt, like the freedom to do it when they want to. And then the final one is for reflectors. And to be off track is disappointment, which is often trying to be a thing that they're not, trying to kind of subscribe to others' patterns or way of doing things. And to be on track, which might be my most favorite, even though it's not my own, is surprise, which is kind of just this like sense of like wonder, of like marveling at how things are happening, what's happening, what they feel what they feel inspired to share. So, it's fun to kind of watch all the ways that that shows up in people's lives.
Oh my God, they're so different. And I can, as you're talking, of course, we can see different family members and different friends. What was manifesting generator? Was that frustration as well?
It was frustration and
Okay.
satisfaction, but manifesting generators also have a little bit of the anger and peace.
I was just going to say,
Yes.
I was like, Chris is in anger?
He's got it too. The manifesting generators are double in that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the frustration in him and the anger, definitely, for sure. That's how it shows up. We're so the same in so many ways, but also couldn't be more different.
Yeah. And it's fun to kind of see like the little nuances. Like I just was talking to somebody earlier, like she and her husband are both projectors, but like they're radically different projectors. So again, this is just so nuanced. The other piece I want to make sure to share about your design, because I just think you embody it so beautifully. I also know that your book was about this, is like we have a part of our design called profile. And I love this part of our chart. It looks kind of like a fraction looking number. So you are 4-6. The 4 in your profile is around the fact that like you are just somebody who like is so meant to be immersed in community. Like your opportunities are all meant to come through the people that you know. You are somebody that does best working with friends, working with people that you know, working with people that you're like, I just like want to spend time with you. Like you're not really somebody who's like meant to work with all these strangers or people where it's like you clock in, clock out. Like there's got to be like a real connection. And I even remember my experience with you. Like I was on your podcast many years ago, and like your first impulse was like, I'm going to connect you to her. I want you to be on her podcast. Like the magic of 4s is that like opportunities come for them through their community, but they're also such magical connectors and so influential in their community.
That's so interesting. So when people are not, again, when people aren't on, that's when what we were just talking about is expressed, when they're not doing that thing. So, and I feel that same way, like if I'm feeling off or things aren't going well, that's when we should lean into, what did you just share? What is that called? The fraction number?
That's the profile. I think it's a great time to lean into that for you, to like lean into your relationships. And this is not around the fact that like you've got to be a big networker. It's more around like, if your opportunities come through the people that you know, how can you really curate the people around you that feel most aligned? Because that's what will birth aligned opportunities. If you're kind of in a lot of friendships that no longer feel true to you, like it's going to be hard for that to really, be how it's meant to be.
Yeah. It's interesting because now I'm needing to create new opportunities in my company. And because I spent so much time creating relationships that were more aligned with the business choices that I was making, over the past 10 years, which is great. A lot of opportunities came because I worked really hard on beautiful relationships in the event space, in the book world, in the personal development world. And now what I'm finding is I like feel so deeply I have to really create new relationships in the female founder world, in the founder world, men, women, anyone who has a product, people who understand this industry, because I don't think that I must connect the two, but I haven't necessarily connected the two that I'm like, I know I have opportunities that come by way of that.
Yeah.
So I have to start switching like gears into creating those relationships. So that's huge to know. Like, it's not just about focusing on meeting those people because you want to meet them or you want to learn from them, but really it is going to be how opportunities are created.
It is. And like you do have a bit of a reflector vibe in your design, and in that you're like incredibly sensitive to your physical space and you really amplify the energy that you're around. So I think a good question to ask yourself is like, if I'm going to amplify the energy I'm around, like what energy do I want to amplify? Is it around being around more founders, more people building products, whatever the thing is, like you are going to like magnetize so much when you're in that space. So it's like, how can I put myself in those spaces more? Because like once I'm in it, so much happens.
Oh, I don't know if I remember that, the reflector part, but that makes so much sense because I'm actually obsessed with creating platforms that amplify people.
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah,
like
I
you
love
feel spaces so deeply. The other part of your profile I wanted to make sure to share about, because I think you're in such a beautiful time for it. You also have a 6 in your profile. So if y'all are listening and you looked up your profile and you are a 6'2", 6'3", 4'6", or 3'6", this will also be applicable to you. It means that you're somebody who is a very natural role model, a very natural teacher. And you're a role model not because you're like, I'm the boss, listen to me. You're a role model because like you're just embodying it. Like you're just living it. You're like learning the lessons, and like you being so authentically you really inspires others to be authentically them. But there are a couple of pieces that I want to make sure to mention. One is that like you're somebody who really needs to kind of step back and take a higher perspective on things. So like I would say like if you're super in the weeds of your business all the time, it can be really easy to get quite pessimistic. So giving yourself this space to kind of pull back and see things is the thing that kind of helps you regain your natural optimism. The other piece is that you are somebody who's meant to live your life in 3 phases. Do you remember this piece? Okay. So the first 30 years of your life was meant to be a time of like tremendous trial and error. It was just like, how many things can I throw against the wall? Like it's a time of experimentation, not a time to figure everything out. 30 to 50, the moment you're in now, is a time where things might become a lot clearer. You're kind of very clear on like what's worth the investment, what's not. You're still experimenting, but probably a little bit less intensely. You might find that you're really kind of processing all the things that you've been through, learned. You are somebody who's meant to hit your prime when you turn 50.
Great.
Isn't that the best? I have the same thing.
Best news ever.
Ever. And like, it's just like meant to keep getting better and better and better. Like you are technically in this moment in your life where you're kind of on the roof, like observing it all. And like 50 is when you're kind of like meant to come off the roof and you're like, here I am, like here to shine and ready to go. And like, and again, you become such an embodied source of wisdom. And I think that when I work with people that are over 50 with this profile, like when they speak, their words have such gravity. Like they speak and everyone's like, what is this person saying? So like, and I would say why it's such a cool phase that you're in is that I feel like when I sit with people, which I often do, that are in their 40s with a 6 in their profile, like they're in this like really wild transitional time where it feels like they're just becoming increasingly intolerant to anything that's not like fully aligned. So like I often watch like a lot of things change in their life in those moments, because I feel like in some ways they're preparing, whether it's consciously or not, to like be like, I really am here to guide and be a role model for others. So like, what do I need to change in my own life to kind of be in full integrity in every single area?
I love that. That is really, I feel like the years that I'm stepping into for sure is what is getting in the way of me doing the things that I really enjoy the most, that make me feel the most me, like where I feel the most satisfied, where, because I think the cool part about getting older too is it's not selfish to do that at all. When I feel the best, when I am most satisfied, everyone around me thrives, and I'm clear on that. I teach them how to make money, or I make them money, or I am able to help them, or I'm able to get them clear. When I am not in a good place, like all of that is not working. And I think that, I could have never said this in my 30s, but I'm super aware of what I do for people. And if I don't like I think that's why it feels like the stakes are even higher, to make sure that I'm doing what I'm here to do. And when I'm not, I get really frustrated. Like,
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you said that because I feel like generators often underestimate the impact of their energy on others, specifically how they feel about their work and how they're using their energy. Like
Mhm.
when you are lit up by what you're doing, like your energy is so magnetic and like such a light and basically powers and lifts up everybody around you.
Mm.
And when you are frustrated, like your energy is sluggish and like people feel that. And I say in the book, I'm like, nothing beats being around a lit up generator because it's true. Like when they are lit up, like we all benefit. I'm married to a generator. When he's like excited, it's just like we're all like buzzing and bubbly. And so like I'm so glad you're so aware of that because I feel like a lot of generators I work with like don't quite realize that and still think it's selfish, but it's like actually the most generous thing they can do.
It can move people. Like
Yes.
it's so into the, like into their whatever they're supposed to be doing. And I just, that is so powerful. And it's like that would be the sweet spot if I could be in that all the time. I'm not, I'm not there yet at all. Like I still get very, very caught up in the weeds and all the things. So I need to read your book again. But one thing that first I want to dive into this because I am neurotic about spaces to the point where I feel like I have a tick. Like
Oh my God,
it's
you meant to be.
freaks my husband out. Like now since we did the human design thing together, but I had like kind of forgotten about it, but he'll mention it sometimes, like to the point where we'll be in the house and he'll move something. And I'm like, you literally cannot move that chair there. I feel it. Like it stops the flow of energy for me. And he's like, you're so weird. And I'm like, you have to move that lamp back over, or you have to push this thing over, or we'll go to a restaurant. We just went to a restaurant last week and I was sitting on the opposite side and there was something about the window and the lighting that was driving me crazy. And I was like, I am so sorry, but I have to sit on the other side of this table. And he's like, you drive me absolutely crazy with this. Now, when I'm with friends, I totally just deal with all of the shit and I'm quiet as much as I can because I just don't want to be that person. I don't. And even if it was like some of my friends are fine with it, and there's a lot that I do, but with my husband, it's like, whatever, I'm going to get my way because I just feel better and I want to fully enjoy this dinner 100%, not 80%. But it is so real. I can't even tell you.
Oh, yeah, I just love that you say that because I don't know if we talked about this the last time, but like you are somebody who being in the right space changes everything for you. And I mean that in the small and big ways, like being in a home that you love, living in a city that you love, like going to a restaurant and being at a table you actually like going into a hotel and not liking it, like giving yourself permission to go. Like you are meant to be so meticulous about your surroundings and so high maintenance about your surroundings. And high maintenance, like not in an annoying way, but in a way that you're really sensitive. And it's so important for the people around you to know that. And like, again, like they're getting the best out of you. Like if you go to a restaurant with Chris and you're like, I don't like this table, like it's actually going to be hard to like drop into it and have like the best experience. So like the vibe makes such a big difference. So I would say for you, I love that you are as meticulous as you are because you take it in a really big way and it really impacts you.
This was cool to learn because for anybody listening who does events, you might have this in your chart as well because this has blessed me with events because I truly know like the reason why people tell us our events are some of their favorite events is because I think my husband has a bit of this too. Like we feel it, like the room has to be on, the room has to look good. We always look for natural lighting. We like to set the tables up a certain way. Like it has to have a certain flow to it. Like events, like I can feel the energy of the people in the back of the room. Like every single experience in every single spot, I have to, like, I'm aware of what's going on and how it's feeling. And sometimes I feel like I go to events and I'm like, oh, I don't think this person has that.
Totally.
That's okay. But, to be able to like look at what you have, some people might be listening to this and be like, that is so high maintenance, but it has served me so deeply. If you come to my events, you will appreciate that I have this in my design.
I mean, honestly, it's such a gift. My husband has this, and I love being around people that have this because, like, there's just such an attention to space that is like for me, like, I love the vibe of a space. I'm very attuned to that, but like, I just don't have the same awareness of like what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And like, it's so nice to be around people that have this because like, it just makes everything feel better.
Oh my gosh. And I promise you, like, we'll always be at the best hotels. We'll be at the best tables. You're going to have the best experience because I literally can't tolerate the other stuff. I used to be able to, but not anymore. I'm like, no, we only do this once. And I want to feel good in like, I work so hard. I want to feel good in every moment. So now I really do try to just like, even if I'm with girlfriends, I'll just like be so kind to, maybe a hostess or whoever. Like I will ask for specifically what will create a better experience for all of us. So I love that. And then another thing that you talked about was I've always felt really picky about like, why do I need to be in a certain area? Do I really need to be by water, or am I just being like a psychopath? Because I think I told you, I don't remember this. No, I think we talked after that, or I think you did our design before this, but you had told me that I always need to live near water. And I'm like, I actually know this, but I moved to the desert and it was the worst experience of my entire life. Like I actually felt, no, it was so good for personal development and all of the things and being like, how can, you look for something amazing today. I did all the things. I'm so deeply into personal development. I journaled. I, saw the people who could try to help me. That I literally did everything. Erin, it was like, I couldn't drop in. Like, I don't know how to explain this. I always say this to my husband. I said, I have no other way to tell you except I felt like I was living on a movie set. It wasn't real. I couldn't get grounded and I felt like I was burning up. Like my skin was so dry. My eyes were dry for we were there like half the year for like 3 years and I couldn't get grounded. It felt like I was waiting and that I was in a simulation.
That's so wild. I think the idea, we all have like optimal environments in human design, yours is shores. I think that like the idea with the environment is that like our environment is like where we kind of meet the least resistance and have the most flow. And so it also kind of makes sense that in an environment that wasn't aligned and wasn't correct, like it felt impossible to get into any kind of flow.
Mm-hmm.
Like it felt like it was just a pause. Yeah.
That's what it felt like. It felt like a pause and I couldn't understand why I couldn't like feel like I could get started there. I absolutely was still able to move business forward. What was so surprising is that there's an incredible community there of women and my best friend lived there. And yet I still just was like, I have to get out. I need to leave. I'm not supposed to be here. And so that was really shocking to me because I thought, and actually like moved into my dream house there. Like it was all the things, but I was willing, like if Chris would have said we're leaving tomorrow, I would have been like, great. Let's go. Isn't that insane? So I do think there's a lot to be said about where you actually live location wise. But I do want to share with anyone who feels like if they're not in the right spot in their life, like I was still very much able to move things forward. I got the most valuable lessons out of that of like sometimes life is on a pause, whether it's you don't want to live somewhere or that you just had a baby and you're in a different moment in your life, or whether, you had to go move with your husband because he took a job or your partner. Those seasons can really teach us a lot. And it really did. It taught me a lot. So
yeah. And I think it's also like so powerful that you also decided to leave, because I feel like sometimes it's like a sunk cost thing where it's like, we've already done it. We're here. It's so much to go. But like, I think that it's nice to hear that you're like, and still we're allowed to leave, and still this isn't right. And like, yeah, you being in the right space and you're right. It doesn't have to make sense. It likely won't. The quality of the space is not about like the nicest place. It's about the place that just like is there and you feel possibility, you feel ease, you feel like belonging. You're like, this is the place for me.
Yes, totally. Do you have any of that in yours, or what's one of yours that's quirky?
So I have many quirky things. I would say my environment in human design is called kitchens, which is not about like living in a kitchen, obviously, but it's about the value of being in spaces where it feels like things are happening, where it feels like you're part of something. And, I lived in New York City for a long time and moved to the woods in 2021. So I kind of moved totally out of that environment. So yeah. I think it's been really important for me to kind of find ways when I need that stimulation to just like be part of things, whether it's like a coffee shop or a co-working space or traveling, whatever the thing is, like knowing how and when to access it. The one that I thought was quirky is around my eating. It goes into our digestion, and mine is called nervous, which basically means like, it's really good for me to eat with like, I'm stimulated by a lot of other things. So like weirdly, like eating while standing up or like while walking or like going for walks before and after I eat is good for me, which like I totally always felt, and also felt like totally like, this is so strange. And so human design was just so validating that it was like, that's perfectly fine.
Wow. So it even goes into like how you should eat.
It honestly goes into all the things. It's not probably the piece I would recommend diving into at first, because there's so many more kind of like tactical day-to-day things. But yeah, it is. Human design is so endless in the amount of information it can offer us.
Yeah, you guys can already see how learning this with your partner, like you're going to get the book and just want all of your friends to read it. So just buy multiple copies because you're going to feel so alone in your conversation if you don't.
Yeah. I had, yeah.
It's so fun because our friends now, like, we'll meet for like a girlfriend date or like a mastermind or something. And it's like, okay, just upfront, what are you? And, what are you? What do you need? Who are you? Like, it's
So
so
good.
helpful. So do all of your friends know this and understand this?
It's so funny. I would say a lot of my friends in New York City did, but like since I moved to the Hudson Valley, I mean, I would say most of my friends up here don't know their design.
Mm.
And like it's so interesting because I think there was a version of myself where I like had to know everybody,
Yeah.
and like I also feel like in this version right now, it's like I let it come when it comes,
Yep.
and like then they'll be like, oh, okay, I looked it up, I'm a manifestor, but like I definitely just don't force it now. But
You can probably already tell what they are.
I can sense what they're usually, but also I will say that like it is such a game changer in friendships. It's like it has changed my life in terms of knowing how to interact with my partner, with my kids, with my parents, with the people that I work with. And so I think when people are ready for it, it's like so fun, but I, as a projector who's meant to be invited in, I try not to force it until people ask.
Yeah, I love that. So also just force it. I'm just kidding.
No,
Okay.
like, just tell me.
Okay, so what do you want people to get from this book? Or what do you think they're going to get?
I think my dream, why I wrote this book, is that this book is not a human design textbook. This book is not like, I'm going to walk you through every intricacy of the chart because honestly, it's impossible. I have offerings around that. It's more around like, how can you practically use this in your life? How can you use it to get out of stuckness and into flow in your career? How can you use it to better understand a partner or a child or a friend? How can you use it to make decisions that feel easeful and more aligned? Like it's meant to be a resource that you come back to again and again. I sat with somebody yesterday who has it like on her bedside table because she's like, I just like need these reminders all the time. And so this book is very much like a practical exploration of how you can use your human design to change your life. And it's meant to be a resource that you don't just read once. And I think to your point, like my real dream is that people just read the chapters about the people they care about most because it is such a game changer in really knowing how to interact with them.
That's so great. Well, I am going to make sure that the book is linked below for you guys. It's out now. You can go and grab it. Trust me, it will be not only enlightening, but so entertaining. It's like, it's so much fun. It's one of the most fun, connective, enlightening things that you can do. And it's easy. It's not too complex. We've done this with our family. We've done this with our employees, and it has been useful every single time. I want to do it with everyone that I know. I pretty much ask what everybody is once I get to know them.
Oh, good.
So I'm totally that girl. But we will put the link to the book below. Go and grab it. Grab one for your bestie. Because like I said, you're literally not going to not want to know what they are.
I know.
Going to change the game for them. But you also have the blueprint, which is what we just went through for me. So it's a really, really in-depth version of what you are. So I know that we were going to give a discount code if you could share about that.
Yeah. So we offer kind of hyper-personalized guides all about your unique design, just so you know how custom they are. There are 400,000 possible variations of the guide, which is crazy. And you can use the discount code HAPPY, and that's at humandesignblueprint.com. And we also offer human design education. If you want to dive into everything, and that discount code will apply to that as well.
You're so amazing. Thank you for doing that. And you guys, I highly recommend it. Again, get family, friends, blueprint, just people who you're close with. I think we did this on like a Saturday with a group of friends. Like we all just got our blueprints and it was the most fun thing ever. So it could be a really cool activity that you do. I'm all about those experiences, Erin. So I'm grateful for you. And you guys go and check everything out. Erin, what's your handle on Instagram?
Erin Claire Jones and Human Design Blueprint.
All right, awesome. We will connect that as well. And until next time, everyone, earn your happy. Bye-bye.